Well, I'm excited about a new series we're starting today on the Beatitudes, attitudes of being. In 1985, or early 86, I believe it was early January 86, and I was at my girlfriend's house. It was a Sunday morning, and her parents, she lived with her parents at that time, and I was home visiting from college. It was a tough freshman year for me. I was lost. How many of you ever been lost? You ever been lost? I was lost. I was just not happy. I just lost sense of my spontaneous joy, and I just felt like life was meaningless, and I didn't know where I was going and didn't know how to get back to that joy I once had in my life. And I think my girlfriend and her family sort of probably saw that and thought I would probably enjoy. They invited me to watch The Hour of Power with Dr. Robert Schuller. How many of you remember The Hour of Power? How many of you never even heard of it? That's okay. So, there was Dr. Robert Schuller. Now, I was raised Jewish, by the way. But I remembered when I saw this man in the blue robe or whatever robe he was wearing and his silver hair, I remembered seeing him as a 4 or 5-year-old flipping channels on a Sunday morning looking for stuff to watch. How many of you remember when there were only like 4 or 5 channels on the TV set, you know? So you don't count the, when you're a child, you don't count the special broadcasting channel, you know, the, what is it called? PBS channel, whatever that was. Anyway, I'm clicking for cartoons or something, and there was that silver-haired guy. So here I am, many years later, watching this guy, and he's doing this new series on what he called the Be Happy Attitudes. A new book that he had written based on the Beatitudes of Jesus. Jesus had come out to talk to his disciples on the Sermon on the Mount, and he was going to teach these attitudes that would help you to be happy. Now, is that interesting to someone who is maybe depressed, maybe feeling lost? You bet it was. And they must have saw how much I liked what I was watching, because a few days later on my birthday, my girlfriend showed up and gave me a copy of his new book. And boy, did I devour that book. There was something in me that wanted to know truth. There was something in me that wanted to be found again. There was something in me that wanted to be happy again. And I just wanted to find what that truth was. So this isn't the original copy, but not long ago I ordered a hardcover version. It's a lot more expensive now if you want to get a hardcover version. They got it in softcover, but I thought, you know what? I want to get the original hardcover version. And it just brings me joy to just look at the book and hold it, because I was so lost then. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about Dr. Schuller's understanding of this first verse. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And of course, since that time, I've studied a lot of other ideas about the Beatitudes, the attitudes of being. So we're gonna say a few things here about what does it mean to be blessed are the poor in spirit. See, beatitude, blessed, means happy. It means happy. Happy are you when you fulfill these Beatitudes. That's what appealed to me back then. God was not a big thing for me back then. I was 18 years old. I prayed every now and then, like, dear Lord, at 13, please help me meet that beautiful 12-year-old girl by the pool. I was 13, you know. Stuff like that. Please don't make Mommy and Daddy die, or Henry, my stepfather, die. But other than that, God really didn't have that much. I didn't think about God much. I believed in God, but I didn't think about God much. So the idea that I could find happiness through something in the Bible that Jesus taught was a new idea. And it's true that as I began to understand these things and to apply them, my inside changed. My mind started to change. I changed. And fortunately, that was a good thing, because I was probably a freshman and then a sophomore, and then some real tragic stuff happened in my life. One, my brother tried to kill himself a year or two later, and I had the spiritual foundation to where I could handle that, and I could be present for him. Fortunately for us, he lived. I could be present for him, and I could be present to my parents and my family, but only because of that foundation. So let's move into blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Happy are you when you're poor in spirit. What does that mean? For a lot of people, they grew up here thinking it meant blessed are the person who is broke, right? I'm going to use the word broke rather than poor. Charles Fillmore said it's a sin to be poor. He was a co-founder of Unity. What did he mean by that? He didn't mean it's a sin to not have stuff. He meant it's a sin to think that you're poor, because as a spiritual being, God is your source. And if God is your source, you can have whatever it is you need. If you don't have what you need, well, then maybe you're blocking the flow somehow. That's kind of what Charles Fillmore meant. Jesus wasn't broke. He didn't travel with a lot of stuff, but he knew who his source was. See, so it's not about material stuff, that if you're poor now, materially, then after you die, you're going to have riches in heaven. That's not what he was talking about. It's deeper than that. Blessed are the poor in spirit. The word poor means a few things. Let's look at a couple of understandings of this. Ask yourself, what does it mean to you? Ultimately, that's what this is about. What is Spirit telling you this verse means? Okay? Keep that in mind also. The late Swami Satchidananda, a great yoga master, also in that same period of time that I received Robert Schuller, I started to watch his show every Sunday after that. Good Jewish boy that I was, watching the Hour of Power every Sunday morning. And another person who had a big impact on me at that time was the late Swami Satchidananda, who was a great soul, a great teacher, and practical as well. He said, blessed are the poor in spirit means having an inner poverty. Now stay with me. An inner poverty meaning an inner cleanliness, being clean inside, being unattached, non-attachments. Now stay with me there. We'll explain what we're talking about. Being non-attached. I'll tell a story that Jesus told. The rich young man came to Jesus and said, hey, I want to follow you. I want the kingdom of heaven. What do I have to do? And Jesus said to him, sell all and give it to the poor, and then follow me. And then it says, the young man turned sorrowfully away because he had many possessions. Now again, possessions is not just because he had wealth or things. That's not what it was. It was a test. If he had given away all his stuff and all his money, then he would have been like the poor who he was giving it to, right? Then he'd have been poor. It was a test of his consciousness. Are you willing to give it all up for the kingdom of heaven? Are you willing to give it all up for peace and joy and love and spiritual expansion? Are you willing? And his answer was, no, I'm not willing. I want my stuff. I need a little in the account over here, you know? That's pretty incredible, isn't it? Enlightened being. is saying, hey, you can follow me and have what I have. And you're saying, nah, no thanks. And he turned sorrowfully away. He was divided within himself. Part of him knew, oh, are you making a right choice here? And part of him was sad because he knew he was not making the best choice. Possessions. The man turned sorrowfully because he had many possessions. Meaning possessions could be afraid of what people think. Possessions could be stuff. Possessions could be money. I rely on money for my security. Possessions could be reputation. Possessions could be fear of public ridicule. Possessions could be the need for fame, the need to be popular, the need to be right. You name it, fill in the blank. And so Jesus is saying, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the person who is attached to spirit. Blessed is the person whose source is spirit, is God. Blessed is the person who is unattached in the sense, as Satchidananda explains, which is, doesn't mean you don't have stuff. Doesn't mean you don't have money. Doesn't mean you don't have friends. Doesn't mean you don't have property. Doesn't mean you don't have a lot of money. It's the attitude. It's not in the outer. It's the attitude. Just like a bank teller. A bank teller is responsible for the money. If someone comes into the bank and tries to take the money illegally, that bank teller is going to stop that person from taking the money. They're going to try anyway. They're going to call the police. They're going to try to hang on that money. They're going to yell. They're going to do whatever they can. Not because they're attached to the money. That money is their job. That's their role. It's a non-attachment to that money. And so he's saying, coming from an unselfish attitude of service, an attitude of service, an attitude of, I'm here to be in tune to follow spirit. God is my source. Here I am, Lord, send me. Some of you know that song. Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. Send me. Where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? It's being attached to spirit and moving from that place. Now, whatever we have, money, things, whatever it is, we can enjoy it because we're not attached to it. Right? We're not attached to it. Yesterday, I took the day off and just was resting and relaxing and letting sort of, I kind of aggravated an injury the other day in a workout. And so I couldn't do a whole lot yesterday except take it easy and do everything I wanted to do. And I felt a little guilty. You ever feel a little guilty sometime? You're taking care of yourself and part of you might feel like I should be doing something else or whatever. I was feeling that a little bit yesterday. I was watching this series, a new series on Netflix called Full Swing. It's about the PGA Tour. Any of y'all watch some of that? Oh, all of you, huh? No, nobody. After watching, when I started watching, I'm like, who's going to want to watch this other than a golfer? But as you get into it, it's actually quite touching, a lot of the story, inspiring and quite touching. But, you know, these guys are very achievement-oriented, and they'll win a major championship, and then it's like right away they want to win the next one, you know, and they won one week, well, they want to prove that they can win again, and it's just always more and more and more. And you're watching that, and you're watching these guys so driven, and then they're getting these paychecks for $1 million, $7 million, and whatever for these playing a game out on a course. Anyway, I was feeling a little guilty at one point yesterday, doing nothing, watching these guys, and then I remembered something. I remembered, you know what, Justin, you're doing this, one, so your body can heal itself. You don't want to aggravate it more. And secondly, so you can be rested for tomorrow, so that you can be recharged for tomorrow. And that totally shifted because it's about being of service. Everything can be about being of service. I'm feeding this body properly so I can be of service. I'm getting enough sleep so I can be of service. I'm having some play time or whatever so I can be of service. This was how the late Satchidananda talked, because he said all pain and suffering comes back to me, my, and mine. How is it affecting me? What am I not getting? What might I lose? And the Buddha said all suffering is related to desire. It's all related to desire, attachments, which is related to desire, what I want. And if I don't get it, there's anxiety. If I get it, then there's fear of losing it. So what is the answer? The answer is I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve. Blessed are the poor in spirit, free of that attachment. You know, the wealthy young man could have said, sure, absolutely. To have this peace, this consciousness that you have, I'll give it all away. And then Jesus would have said, good answer. You don't have to give it all away. Follow me. Good answer. And so that's what it is. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Now, that's a deep, very deep understanding. Another level of it is it's connected as self-will. That's what we're talking about, selfishness from the lower self. I like to think of maybe a higher selfishness, like a spiritual selfishness, which is, hey, this is going to help me fulfill my purpose. This is what Spirit's guiding me to do. This is how I can serve. Spiritual selfishness, a higher selfishness, right? Taking care of yourself so you can be of greater benefit, greater service. You can only give what you have, right? You can only give what you have. If you have a nickel and someone needs $1, you're not going to be much help, right? You can only give what you have. Joy, energy, enthusiasm, a sense of wholeness, upliftment, spirit-centered, peaceful, loving, rich in every way. Blessed means to be happy. Blessed means to be enriched. It means to confer prosperity upon, which is really ultimately consciousness. Having all that. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Eric Butterworth says heaven is from the Greek uranos, which means expansion. As we live these attitudes of being, we expand in our potential. We realize more of our potential. How many of you are excited about expanding in your potential? How many of you are excited about experiencing more of the happiness of your being, more of the joy of your being, more of the light of your being, the love of your being, letting your light shine in a greater way? That's what it was all about. So blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the poor in pride also. Pride. Blessed are the person who's not stuck in their opinions, stuck in their habit ways of thinking, stuck in their ways of living. That rich young man, he was stuck in his, hey, I like my top moving camel here. This is one of the best camels on the planet. I like my camel and my blankets, special, sewn blankets or whatever the stuff they had back then that was special. I don't want to change anything. I don't want to change anything. The person who says, oh, I don't like my job. I'm unhappy in my job. I can't use my skills. Well, what if Spirit said, I want you to move to California? Would you be willing to do that? No, I like where I live. I like where I'm living right now. Yeah, well, blessed are the poor in habitual ways of thinking, habitual ways of being. Where, how are you thinking? Where are you being? Are you attached to that? Or are you like, Spirit, I'm all yours. Wherever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, I am available. I am available. Wow. You know what? That's freedom. That's freedom. Because now you are unattached. Now you're available. And great things happen when you're available. I was raised Jewish. When I was a kid, I went to Hebrew school through the first 6 grades of school. Half of the day, probably from 8 o'clock in the morning till 11 or 12, was Hebrew. And then from 11 to 3 was English studies. That's what I was raised in. We were Orthodox Jewish. We weren't really very Orthodox, but we kept kosher, hey, that was good. We went to synagogue on holidays. What an enlightening experience to later learn that Christians did the same thing. They went to church on the holidays, So, I don't remember the point I was going to make on that. Oh, I got it. Okay, I got it. So, in the days of Jesus, the religious authorities were not interested in what he had to say, a lot of them. They didn't want to hear what he had to say. He said himself, I have not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. Jesus wanted to help people gain a greater, deeper understanding of spiritual laws. He wasn't trying to replace what people already were practicing. He wanted people to have a deeper understanding and application of it. That's what he was about. But if you are in a position of authority and status and power, as if they were a clergy and they had certain beliefs that they were espousing and they were held in prominent positions of authority and they were getting paid for it and everything else, they didn't want to change their minds. I'm not open and receptive to anything new. And then, of course, there were people who just didn't believe what Jesus had to say. So that was part of the problem. And the same is true today. The same is true today. These ideas are been out now. They're circulating. A lot of people are open and receptive. But there are a lot of people who don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. And it's not just, we're not just talking religious people now, are we? We live in a secular culture now. We live in a secular culture. A lot of people only know it's all about me and it's what I can do and what I can get, and that's what it's all about. And they're not receptive. They don't have eyes to see and ears to hear. But if we are honest with ourselves, there's probably parts of our lives that we're not receptive either. What is Spirit trying to call me to do in different parts of my life? What is it that I'm not maybe listening to? What am I not hearing? Sometimes I'm afraid to say, Spirit, what do you want me to do? Because I have my day planned out. What if Spirit wants me to do something I don't feel like doing that day? How many of you ever felt that before? I don't want to ask Spirit what he wants me to do because he might ask me to do something I don't feel like doing today. I'm not alone, am I? Yeah. And yet, when we listen and we follow, we find out, wow, what an amazing experience I just had doing, following, and being open and receptive and doing. That's what he means. Blessed are the poor in spirit, being open and receptive. So now, last point is one from Robert Schuller. Dr. Robert Schuller, The Hour of Power. Blessed are the poor in spirit. He also says it means poor in pride. Well, he takes it from a different tack. And it's the tack of where are you impoverished in your life and you need help? Are you willing to admit, I need help. I can't do it alone. I need help. Whatever that help is. It could be help from God. It could be help from somebody to help you with your business. It could be help from a therapist or some other way. What is it? Is there an area in your life that you need help? There was this prominent person who said that she spent her whole life drinking liquor, having a problem with alcohol, and not admitting it to herself. Spending her whole life drinking, an alcoholic, and not admitting it. We know in AA, the first step is admitting I am an alcoholic. That's not true of your spiritual essence, but that might be true of your humanness that's struggling right now. That I've got a problem and I need help because I'm not able to handle it by myself. I need help. And this woman, this prominent person, got to that point. It's been said sometimes you got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired before you're willing to do something. You got to hit rock bottom sometimes before we're willing to be humble enough to admit, I'm not making any progress, I need help. And that's what she did. She finally reached that point where she could say, I've got a drinking problem. And now she was humble enough, poor in spirit, to admit, I'm impoverished in this area of my life, I need help. And that's a positive thing, because there's a fear in the society that we're going to be rejected, we're going to be embarrassed, and underneath, Dr. Schuller says it's really a fear of losing your sense of dignity and self-esteem. But the fact is, people respect you when you're honest with yourself, and then you can be honest with other people. So this beatitude, I need help. He tells the story of one day he was raised on an Iowa farm, eating in his family. They ate lots of bread. They had lots of bread and lots of butter and lots of pies and desserts. And he said he was a pudgy little baby and he struggled with his weight all of his life. And at the time when this story happened, he was counting calories and he had tried all kinds of diets and they had failed. And one day, a man invited him out to dinner and they had this delicious bread. The man was saying, oh, you got to try this bread. And it felt warm and it smelled good. And the guy next to him, he could see the butter melting into the bread as he was putting. So I said, he took some. And then they came out with this main course that looked delicious. Man, you got to try this. This is the best in town. So Schuller, it's okay, and he ate it. Not his normal lean meats and vegetables and fruit. And he ate it up. And then dessert came out. And the man said, oh, this is the best pie in town. It's made with a chocolate crust. And, by this time, Schuller's feeling a little guilty. But he had to have some of that delicious pie that the man was telling him about. So he ate the pie. And then when he left the restaurant, he's like, I must have consumed 3,000 calories. And at bedtime, he was feeling depressed and distraught. And he said that he prayed to God. He said, God, I like the fact this was at a point where, he'd been a minister many, many years. He said, God, I don't know if you exist or don't. He prayed to Jesus. Jesus, I don't know if you exist or don't. I've believed in you. I've preached about you. And I've raised millions of dollars for the church, for your work. I built the Crystal Cathedral, but I can't manage my weight. Please help me. He said in that moment, an image came into his mind, and it was an image of a river in his hometown in Iowa. And it was a rushing river. And in the river was this big, mighty oak tree that was being uprooted and pulled down the river. And he knew that was him and his body, his physical body. And he said, I saw the edge of the river on the banks that was calm and peaceful. But as it got into the river, it was rough. And he realized that that represented his love for cakes and cookies and and butter and bread and all of that, that if he played on the edge of the water with little taste here and a little taste there, he would get caught up in the river and uprooted and taken down the river. He realized, I can't play around with this stuff. And he said he heard the words in his mind saying, I have snatched you from destruction. I have snatched you up from destruction. And he said, I was healed on a subconscious level after that. I had my ups and downs, but I didn't fall into what I had fallen into that night. He was healed on some level. He admitted a problem. He was humble enough to admit, I can't handle this by myself. And he was open. He was humble. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Is there an area in your life that you need help? Is there an area in your life where you've been struggling? You've been trying to solve this problem. You've been trying to heal this issue. You've been trying to rely on what you know, but you haven't made any progress. And you're not making any progress. Can you admit it to yourself? Can you be humble enough in spirit to say, I need help. I can't do it alone. And who is it that you might reach out to? Who is it in your business? Who is it in relationships? Who is it regarding your health? Who is it? What is it? Maybe it's spirit. Maybe it's God that you've been trying to do it on your own. I encourage you to be open and to be that humble, to ask Spirit to help you. Here are some ways you can ask. I've got a problem. Can you help me? I don't understand. Can you enlighten me? This is from Be Happy Attitudes. I can't agree with you. Can we meet somewhere in the middle? I've got a problem accepting this. Can you give a little from your position? I'm really at a loss. Can you direct me? I'm ready to quit. What's your advice? I'm at my wit's end. I've had it. Please tell me what you think I should do. He says, if you're too proud or too afraid to admit you're hurting, don't be surprised if nobody seems to care. Blessed are the poor in spirit, because you will expand your potential. Blessed are the poor in spirit, because you'll open yourself up to help, to healing, to greater possibilities. It means to be clean inside. It means to be an instrument, to be a vehicle, to be an open vehicle to all there is in spirit, to not have the attachments of attitudes, opinions, things, possessions of any kind, but to really be yielding to that presence and power that is expressing in and through and as you. And then having the humility to ask, whether it's of spirit or somewhere else, I need your help. I need your help. Let's get still for a moment. Thank you. It's okay to clap if you want to. We're clapping to the truth, right? Thank you, Father, Mother God, for your guidance and your direction today. We are humble, poor in spirit, poor in pride, acknowledging that, yes, we are expressions of your presence and your activity. But we're not the ocean. You're the ocean. We're the wave. We're the wave that is receptive to all there is in the ocean. And we're receptive to all that you are. And we thank you for your guidance and your direction, your healing, your strength, your power, and for your good. I am the inlet and can become the outlet for all there is in God. I am the inlet and can become the outlet for all there is in God. Would you join me, please, in knowing this together? I am the inlet and can become the outlet for all there is in God. Again, I am the inlet and can become the outlet for all there is in God. And so it is. Amen.